With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me tonight live here in the Bourbon Life Studios, it's my good friend, my buddy, my pal, Matt. Matt, how you doing out there, man?
Mark, I am doing great out here. How are you doing in there?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a good day. It's a beautiful day here in Kentucky. You know, I spent the afternoon over at the University of Kentucky. The James B. Beam Distilling Institute had their ribbon cutting ceremony here. So I'm just excited about that. You know, I mean, it's great. There's several universities out there that have these distilling programs, and we've had Ari Sussman on the show a couple of times, and he always talks about the Michigan State program, which was actually the very first
in the
distilling program, in the nation. So now I'm excited that I can finally say Kentucky has caught up, and we have the largest, most prestigious Distilling Institute at the University of Kentucky here in the world. So, but yeah, man, it's been a good day. I've had a lot of fun. Got to see a lot of people over there at the event. Got to maybe drink some bourbon as well. So it's been a good time. But we've got a great show lined up tonight, man. So I'm really excited about that. But before we jump into that, I want to thank all of our sponsors. We do appreciate everything they do for us. We couldn't do this show without their support. Appreciate our listeners, of course, as well. Matt, with that said, do you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. We have a third time guest joining us and joining you all this evening, a man that I feel like I could talk to about so many different topics and so many different things. But it is right now the second week of August here, 2023, which means we are just a few short weeks away from Bourbon Heritage Month, which is a big, big deal here in Kentucky. And it wouldn't be Bourbon Heritage Month and we wouldn't be in Kentucky if we weren't talking about the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever it is you're listening to the Bourbon Life Podcast, is the Director of Programming for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, Steve Coomes. Steve, welcome back on the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thanks, man. 3 times. 3 times.
That's right.
3-peat.
What do you have, man? Like 6 shows, maybe? Not that popular? Or are you that desperate?
You know, we get hard up for guests sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. Steve, we've had this plan for months. Tracy, set this up for us months ago, man. So we're excited to have you back on here and talk about
here, guys, as always.
Talk about the Bourbon Festival. You're back on, let's see, I got the notes. Episode 78, we talked about the Bourbon Festival, but then again, you were on last December, episode 149, one of my favorites, a life-changing episode for me.
Yes, it was for both of us. It was a life-altering experience.
Yeah, man. Talked about Kentucky country ham. Yeah. So Steve, for people that don't know, I'm going to hold it up here, Steve. Steve not only is an expert, Steve wrote the book on country ham here. So
tip my book, baby.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Let everybody know Steve's got a book about country ham. I'm telling you what, growing up in Eastern Kentucky, country ham was just that big, thick sliced slab you put in a cast iron skillet and fried up. I had no idea about prosciutto style country ham, nothing, till you introduced this to it, Steve. So you've changed my life.
Nobody else did until maybe the 1800s when they started cooking it, because it was just it was cured, so it was ready to go.
Yeah,
that's why they ate it.
Well, we appreciate that. We're thrilled to have you back on the show, man. It's always a great time to hang out with you. I wish you could be doing it live. like we did the last show, but that's all right. We're happy to have you back. Any way we can get you, Steve Coomes, we're happy to have you on here.
Glad to be gotten.
Yeah, awesome. So we got a few things we're going to be drinking, and we're going to be talking about the Bourbon Festival tonight. We're also going to be talking and drinking a lot of the whiskeys and things, bourbons, ryes, whatever, from Bardstown Bourbon Company, which is the featured distillery of the Bourbon Festival this year, correct?
That is true. They've been a fantastic partner, and now they're fully in the spotlight. We couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, and that's really cool. Last year, I think it was it Beam? They were the featured distillery last year? Is that right?
I think so. And prior to that, gosh, who was it? It wasn't Heaven Hill, because that was the strike year. I'm trying to think. I don't recall.
I don't remember,
Couldn't
Matt, because I missed it that
Heaven
year.
Hill's next year, actually.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I missed it in 21 because of COVID, because I had COVID in 20. 21? I can't remember now. But anyway, I missed it. Yeah, but anyway, so Bardstown Bourbon
Thanks
Company.
for staying home. We didn't need you to make it a super spreader event, Mark.
Typhoid Mark here, right? So
I had plenty of fun on your account.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
In your absence.
You're such a good dude.
What can I say?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so we're drinking the Origin Series Rye from Bardstown Bourbon Company, 95.5, 5-year, 8-month-old. And this is their distillate, right? So this is the first release they've done.
Absolutely.
That is exclusively their product, which is so cool. Everybody's really excited about this coming out. They put out the three different expressions this year. What they put out, a bourbon, they put out a wheated bourbon. Was that right? The other one?
I think.
Is that right?
And a bottle and bond.
So very, very cool. So Matt, before we jump into the conversation here, what do you pick up on this? I know you're the rye guy, man. So what do you pick? Oh, I should say also, this is what, 96? Yeah, 96 proof.
Yeah,
so
96
what do you pick
proof,
up?
Kentucky 95.5. I know oftentimes when rye drinkers hear 95.5 as the mash bill, 95% rye, 5% malted barley, we think Indiana, but this is Kentucky's take on it. And the nose on it is very different than what one would get out of this same mash bill in Indiana. It's much sweeter, and I think it has much more kind of a bourbon type nose and undertones to it. Oftentimes with a 95.5 rye, I'll get really spicy, really bold or herbal, fresh, grassy notes. To me, this is more baking spice. This is more graham cracker, more cinnamon and spice, kind of more of those autumn aromas come out of the nose on it. Definitely good influence from the barrel as well. Just a really, really delightful nose and beautiful, beautiful color in the glass. You can't see. It's just
it is
absolutely gorgeous.
And that's definitely. Wouldn't you think that's from the secondary finish? Barrel. They did this special barrel that had an alternating oak and cherry staves, which really, I think, amplifies that wood note.
Oh wait, on this one they did?
And that color.
They
I'm
had
pretty sure that's it.
Oh, was it? I don't think I had that. if that's the case, I didn't have that information, man. Oh yeah.
Glad.
Oh yeah, it's right there on the label. Jesus. You're right, Steve. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, Kentucky Straight Rye
cool?
Whiskey finished in toasted cherry wood and oak barrels. Yes. So there you go, Matt. That explains.
There it is.
Some of that difference there. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't have that in the notes. I've failed you.
No, I know. Lots to learn. A lot of whiskey around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. I still, pick out that real dill character, and that would be, some people might say would lean toward the MGP 95.5, but there's also wintergreen in there too, which kind of drags it down and softens it a bit. And I think it's fantastic. I also think if you get a bottle, cocktail the first one and let it have some room to breathe, because mine got so much better after I worked a little space in the bottle.
Oh, did it really? Okay. All right. Yeah. Good to know. Because I was gonna ask you in terms of the nose what you got, but appreciate you sharing that, Steve. I mean, you do a lot of different things. You write. You work with the Bourbon Festival. So I know we've had you on the show twice, but let's take a second. Can you kind of tell everybody a little bit about kind of who you are and what you do, and and also a little bit how you got involved with the Bourbon Festival.
The elevator speech is, I started off as a chef in restaurants. I always wanted to be a journalist. I was the worst typist in the world and didn't know until a very kind girlfriend was sending me, to the curb. She said, you know that there's this word processing thing, right? You can correct all your mistakes on the computer. So don't hesitate to go be a writer, which is an awfully nice way to get, bipped to the curb. And I started out as a food writer because of that, because that was what I knew best and have done that for 32 years. I do very little of that now, but I got into spirits, writing, I don't know, I want to say at least a decade ago, maybe a little bit more. And wasn't even a bourbon guy at that time. And I was shamed into it by Dawn Bristol, who used to be the director of tourism in Bardstown. And she just said, nobody's going to write about my city and Southern living unless they've had some bourbon, and you're going to march into Heaven Hill right now and go through a tasting. I was like, yes, ma'am, I did. And that literally, a true story, that's when the lights came on. But what's hilarious about it was, the tasting was Elijah Craig 94 proof and Larceny 92. And I was as numb as if I'd been to a dentist office, on low proof stuff, as I would call it now. And now, it's not a big deal to drink, much, much higher proof. But that's where I got my start, and it was off to the races since then. So I also do, Mark, you'd ask me what else I do. I do a lot of whiskey and tequila presentations for groups, sometimes online, sometimes in person. And a lot of times I do food and whiskey pairings. And as you guys got a little taste of that one night,
Right.
the country ham and whiskey, whiskey is every bit as good as wine in terms of a food pairing. And I love doing that, love turning people onto it because they're so surprised. They just never thought of it. Had somebody not, bought a ticket and sat down in front of one of our presentations.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great. And obviously, like I said, the country ham. I'm going to put another plug out there.
A Southern tradition of hog, salt, and smoke by Steve Coomes.
That's right. Yeah. Great experience. And now you obviously work with the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, Director of Programming. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what that means, what you do, what that entails working with the Bourbon Festival?
In a nutshell, it is me organizing all of the programs for the premium education, which are ticket-only events, and the Bourbon 30 show, which is a live interview segment that's done on the half hour and for 30 minutes. And that's done just as, for the crowds. So you're walking around the festival, you got your drink, you can have a seat on a nice padded chair and watch some pretty lively and entertaining stuff on the stage for free. The premium event stuff, which we'll talk about a little bit later, are deep dive classes into whiskey, cocktail making, food and bourbon, for cooking, for pairing, the history of bourbon, whatever we want to do, and whatever presenters we want to line up. Those are the events that happen in the Brindiamo classroom, which is a beautifully redone, air-conditioned space.
Yeah.
That I can't wait to see that, with a good classroom full of people, and as opposed to, we haven't had it bad in the past. The KBF headquarters, which is where the education happens, is in a building erected in 1860, I do believe. And my dad was probably there in a classroom in the 1950s at St. Joe Prep.
Wow.
So what we have now is just so cool. And I can't wait for pictures to be taken and circulated all over social media of what goes on in those premium education events.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great place. If you've not been to the Bourbon Festival, obviously we're going to encourage everybody to go. But the experience is great. You mentioned that Bourbon 30. We can talk about that a little bit later as well, because that was a lot of fun. Just walking through the way that's set up and the way you do that. That's just really cool. So this year though is this the 32nd year? Is that right? 32nd. 32nd.
That's correct.
That's crazy. So the event started out just really, it had been forever really more of like I don't want to say a carnival, but really more like a craft type of thing where people were just hanging out in Bardstown, just having a good time. Is that
craft
really
carnival?
Yeah.
However you want to call it.
Yeah. Really, that's really kind of what it was. And then what was it, 3 years ago? 3-4 years ago? Things
In
changed?
2020, Randy Prossi, who is the chief operating officer, was hired, and when they made the announcement, it was, gosh, probably about 100 people in the room there to hear it and welcome him. And I immediately walked up to him. I had done some presentations at the festival in past iterations, and I said, I have some ideas I think we can use to improve this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he said, I want to hear them. And eventually he said, distilleries have told us very clearly, we have to have sips to lips, or we're not going to be involved in this.
Right.
That it was great for Bardstown as long as it went on. It was a great family-focused event, but it was not a bourbon festival, and it wisely needed to be turned into a bourbon festival since the name was on it, and because it's in the distilling epicenter of Kentucky. And that was the charge, and we rolled out with it, and it's great. I mean, it's fantastic to see it become what it should have been a long time ago.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, Steve, when you approached Randy after you met him, did you know Randy beforehand? Had you met him before?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Didn't know a thing about him.
Yeah. So, because he
was kind of deer in the headlights, and I came rushing up. I guess I looked like Jack Rudy coming up to Oswald. I'd settle down, back him off.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was
Please.
excited. I knew there was real potential.
Yeah. So, did you know he was going to be like, "Hey, by the way, I'm just going to make you director of programming because I need help with this"? Did you? I mean,
I wish I knew the particulars. I don't recall those. Eventually, I just left
Okay.
him the business card, and we chatted for a little bit, and he called back. And luckily, Mike Manget of he's Kentucky Tourism Director now, who was in 2019 when he was already running tourism in Bardstown, he was also asked to take over the Bourbon Festival, which I just can't imagine
I can't-
pulled it
yeah.
off how he did it. But he said to Randy, talk to him. I think he can manage your content side, and we figured it out. And what's kind of interesting, and I'll be really brief, we wanted to try to do a live festival, believe it or not, in 2020, but COVID just wouldn't back down enough.
right.
And so Randy had the idea of pivoting and doing it virtually, or video, I should say.
Right.
And we did, I don't know how many segments, maybe 16 different segments where we interviewed people. And you can find all these online on YouTube. And whether anybody liked it, it doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact that the distilleries liked it. And they came in and saw the quality and the commitment they were making to this virtual festival. And Bill Samuels was the first to kind of look around and go, studio lights, cameras? He was like, this is serious. And once we got done with the interview with him and his son, Rob, and it was West and Kyle Henderson, it was just all about growing up in a distilling family. Bill said, we're behind this, and we're going to donate 2 barrels to this.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and thus was born the single barrel program. We didn't know until Bill did that.
Mm-hmm.
And just having his endorsement and him getting so excited about it just really, snowballed to the enthusiasm for the rest of the industry.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, obviously, you've got a lot of the big distilleries right there in Bardstown, in or around Bardstown. So to have that buy-in, to have that commitment, I mean, it is huge. I mean, Bardstown's the bourbon capital of the world. I mean, that's the moniker. And the festival, like you said before, unfortunately, really did not represent, I think, what that meant to be the bourbon capital of the world. Because you couldn't even drink bourbon initially, right? I mean, there was you could get beer maybe or something. I can't remember what was going on with it, but
there was an alcoholic beverage area.
Okay.
I'm trying to think where it's in that shaded area now where the Bourbon 30 stage is.
Yeah.
And you could walk up to a bar and it had this very ordinary menu just listing what you could get and what it costs. You paid cash and you got a pour or you got a cocktail or a beer or whatever. So, but it was fenced off from the rest of the festival because it was a family event and I think smartly did not want to
right.
have people walking around drinking around kids. So, but not like now where it's all about walking around and drinking.
Yeah, no doubt. Completely different. And it's a great experience. So Matt, let's jump back and talk about the whiskey. We're almost at the end of round 1 here. So let's jump back over here to this Bardstown Bourbon Company. Hold up my little mini bottle. These little mini bottles. I mean, they're awesome, man. So cool. So this is the Bardstown Bourbon Company Origin Series, which is their first distillate. This is all their stuff. 5-year, 8-month old, 95.5 whiskey. So, Matt, what do you think in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
The palate has a good amount of grain that I really taste. I get that rye bread. It kind of has that, like that deli type aroma. I walk into a deli that's got fresh bread and maybe like hanging meats or cold cuts. Just has this really inviting taste that comes through on the palate. Then I think some of the rye characteristics, like a little bit of honey, a little bit of orange blossom, some like light citrus, and some of that wintergreen that you were talking about, Steve, come through. Then a nice, just like warm, toasty kind of finish to it, and like not really like a hot cinnamon, not a peppercorn, just like just a nice warmth that kind of goes with the palate and stays with you. Just really well done. I think the influence from the cherry staves really come across too on the palate. There's that subtle sweetness, and just the different there. You can tell there's something different just beside oak with it.
Yeah. Steve, what about you? I'm not even going to be a part of this conversation between Matt and Steve.
Yeah,
the palate,
get a couple of chefs together.
The palate's here. Yeah, man, the palate's here. I don't even, not even a chance here. So, Steve, what do you get, man?
Check on what Matt said, especially the toasted aspects really come through, and it was perfectly said, Matt. It just delivers cinnamon, but not a hot cinnamon. And it's just a lingering, long, warm finish. I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else you said,
there you go,
spot
Matt.
on,
See,
brother.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That's not the only reason I keep Matt around, but that's the big reason. Oh man, no, very good at this.
Glad to know you're a rye guy, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. Any way I can get it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, guys, we are at the end of round one. So I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Steve Coomes, the Director of Programming for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, in just a minute.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky. Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they called Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the second round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me tonight live here in the Bourbon Life Studios, it's my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing out there?
Oh, Mark, I am doing great. It's so good to be back here. The Bourbon Life Studios, always excited to be recording another episode with you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm having a great time. It's always fun. You know, the days are long, and then we get to record the podcast, but you know, you feel tired, and then you start recording, and it's like, oh, this is so much fun.
Catch that second wind.
If only, Matt, it is. If only we could figure out how to do this like full time, right?
Morning, noon, and night.
There you go. But you know what? If it becomes a job, it might not be quite as exciting and fun. I don't know. I'm kind of torn between those two, right?
It might be exciting and fun for at least for a little bit.
This has become a job for me.
There you go. Yeah,
This
Steve's
is
the
the most
perfect
fun
guy to
job
ask.
I've ever had. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you can have fun in a job, then it's great.
There you go. Yeah. So obviously, Matt, go ahead and tell everybody who we have with us tonight.
He's back. Steve Coomes, the director of programming at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and a man of many different hats in and around the bourbon, food, culinary industry. Steve, welcome back for the second round here.
Glad to be on round two. to see if I can make it to round 3.
Glad we didn't lose you, man.
Say something dumb or offensive.
Yeah. We have yet to cut a guest off. We have never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And we've yet to have a guest leave. So we've not offended anybody to the point that they wanted to leave the show.
That's a good record.
So
we're doing
far.
good. You're episode 183, I believe, tonight. So we're doing pretty good here.
Yeah. And we are.
I'm still waiting for the.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, no, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to segue in to our drink here before we get too far down the road,
Yeah,
John, here.
Go ahead.
But we are featuring Bardstown Bourbon Company tonight, because they are the title feature sponsor for this year's Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And we have poured up Fusion Series number 9. So Fusion Series number 9, our Fusion Series, this is a card that we received here from Bardstown. I'll read to you all what we've got going on. Our Fusion Series concludes with an exquisite blend of nuanced Kentucky bourbons. Throughout the series, we've showcased the best of our estate distilled bourbon with carefully curated aged whiskey. Enjoy this special sign-off with our favorite creation to date. So it sounds like this is going to be the end of the Fusion Series. But
That is.
it is a blend here. We have 48% of a 4-year distillate coming out of Bardstown Bourbon Company, and that is 75 corn, 21 rye, 4% barley. Then we have 22% of another distillate coming out of Bardstown Bourbon Company at 4 years, which is a 4 grain of 60% corn, 26 rye, 10% wheat, and 4% barley. So we're keeping that barley content pretty low with these first two. And then we round it out with the aged product here, 30% of a Kentucky 12-year. That is 75 corn, 13 rye, 12 barley. And that is coming in at 96.8 proof. So Bardstown Bourbon Company, Fusion Series number 9.
Yeah, and this is the last one, like you said, Matt. So the Fusion Series, featured part of their distillate as they grew older, obviously, and this has 2 different 4 years in it. And then the Origin Series was the first release of their own distillate, and they did that 3-part release this year. So yeah, Fusion is over, man. So this is number 9. This is the end of it. So what do you pick up in terms of the nose on this, Matt?
Oh, you have to go to Steve real quick. I just finished reading the card. I haven't had a chance.
Come on, Matt. See, all right, Steve. I'll throw
Very
it to you.
desserty. I keep thinking creme caramel, cotton candy. I get cotton candy out of too much lately, it seems. But there's confectioner's sugar. It's got a huge dessert profile. Dare I say, and confess my habits, a breakfast profile. But there's cooked pastry in there. There's again, confectioner's sugar. I really love it. It's a simple blend for sure. And just a little side note of all the distillate that, if you like tasting distillate, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That second one, the 60 corn, 26 rye, 10 wheat, 4% malted barley is delicious.
Is it really? Okay.
Just coming off the still. Yeah, it's good stuff. Just ask them if they give you an opportunity to taste what's running that day. Is that the 60% corn?
Yeah. Can you please
Not that
send
the
us-
other ones are bad, but that one's actually quite good.
Interesting. Yeah, Matt, what do you think?
For me, the influence of the 12-year product really comes through in this. I think just looking at the mash bill on this 12-year product, I might have some idea of where it could be coming from, and the nose on it is similar to where I would expect something for this product to come in for me. It's got a real sweet, nutty aroma to it, like a sweet like Snickers bar peanut caramel kind of nougaty nose. And there's also this
Nougat, absolutely.
this sweet savory cream, kind of like the aroma off of nice fresh ice cream. Just I know nobody really sits around and smells their ice cream, but just that sweet cream aroma to it as well. But like you were saying, Steve, a lot of dessert or breakfast flavors too, a lot of sweetness, some of those baking, kind of syrupy notes, or earthy kind of dark, sweet notes.
So are you going to place a guess on the 75-13-12,
Uh,
the outsider mash bill?
I would guess that maybe that is from Jim Beam.
I was either that or Barton,
Yeah.
and I could be wrong on one component of the mash bill, but when you had said the peanut note, I generally don't get that from Beam, and I know I'm an outsider in that, but I always get the banana bread notion from Barton, and I didn't get any of that. So you're probably right on Beam.
Very nice. Well done, Matt. I can't add anything again. Here I am, just playing along at home. Nice.
Stay silent. Stay silent and drink.
That's exactly right. I just look good. I just look good and drink bourbon on the show. Okay,
Well,
guys?
you are the curator of conversation.
Just kick on, Mark. Just really ham it up.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be
really
the
country ham it up there.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be the master of bourbon. I'm supposed to add stuff to the content, Matt. Anyway, so let's talk about
that. I think is the best of the fusions too. And I've gone back.
Okay,
we're so lucky to have a lot of these.
yeah,
I love
the
full
sample.
bottles, but these are nice too. These small bottle press samples, because you can. There's something about it that says save it and come back to it later, and I've got a lot of those lined up, and it's fun to be able to cross compare them, and that is my favorite of the series.
That's a good point, Steve. I've not done that, but I do have a lot of these little bottles sitting around here somewhere. So
these were a cool series too, because they always start blending, and they took the input of all their employees into the finished product. Like they would come up with different blends and then pass them around to all the employees that wanted to participate and get their input on it and tweak from there. And eventually I thought each one came down to employee vote onto what the winning blend was.
You may be right.
That was
Matt.
a big tasting panel. I think you're right, Matt.
Yeah. We should probably go back and check, because we've had Dan on the show. We should probably go back and listen. But Matt, you've got a great memory. So if you're remembering that from a show, then I'm going to say you're right. So let's talk about the festival a little bit more. So you guys this year, I think, 50 different distilleries that are lined up to be participants in this.
Yeah.
Steve, is that right?
Most ever. Yeah. We've had a couple that had to cancel, and there have been 3 waiting to get in every time. It's just,
Okay.
We have space constraints finally. We are at our max.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's got to feel good from your perspective, to be involved with this, because I know there was some pushback locally a couple of years ago when all this started changing. But still, man, you guys, I mean, what you guys are doing, what you put together, what's going on down there, people want to be part of it. People in the industry want to be part of it. So that's got to be a good feeling, right?
It's great. It's a great feeling to see where it's come in such short order. And I think it continues to exceed our wildest expectations. I mean, like this year, the VIP experiences sold out in under 5 minutes.
Man,
wow.
All of it. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy amount of revenue too. It's like, oh my gosh, just on that alone shows that people wanted, there was a pent up demand for a premium experience.
Yeah.
And I know that the board had talked about pricing this year and just saying, gosh, inflation's setting in, and we're a little bit of hand wringing, and boom. All that's gone in 5 minutes. Just incredible. I guess Randy probably shared that in his discussion with you guys.
Yeah, we did talk about that just a little bit, but I mean, just from your perspective, to be someone that kind of stepped up and said, "Hey, I'd love to help you," and here's kind of what I think, and then 3-4 years later to see this type of response. I mean, Steve, it's just got to be edifying. I mean, it's really got to make you feel like, yes, you know what, we made the right call, and you got in, when you needed to be there, and they needed you to be part of that.
Well, lucky me.
Yeah.
and I could to dip back into 2019 and tell you a story about what it was and the crowd that it drew. And this isn't to bash the past or anything, but it showed that
Sure.
the audience wasn't there for the people that we were bringing in. And Harlan Wheatley came, and we did this little conversation on the grounds. No, I mean, one or two people sat there, and he said, "Is this the way it was supposed to be?" I was like, "No, I'd hope for a better crowd. Sorry." You know, same thing for Danny Kahn, who was brand new at Barton.
Yeah.
Same thing. Well, maybe 20 people sat down and listened to Fred and Freddie No.
Man.
And I'm telling you, I wish that conversation was recorded because it was funny. It was funny. Just Fred being himself. And in fact, I had a quick little story. I had my questions for them, and they were on my lap, and I had a couple of sheets, and the wind blew the sheets off my lap, and I bent over it and set it to a hot mic. Oh, damn it. And Freddie No leans over, looks at me, and says, "Steve, I believe you're the first person to ever beat Fred No to a cuss word in an interview."
Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
And my wife, who had met him, and several others who knew him, were out there howling, and people are just walking by. Kids in strollers walking by, nobody paying attention. And I thought, oh my gosh, we're on to something here just by Mike Magid saying, do something, do some interviews. You got 3 days to do this. Okay, we'll do it.
Oh, man.
And we were right. Our hunches were right.
Yeah, they are. And so that's kind of a nice segue because we can talk about the programming, but you do the event now called Bourbon 30, which is part of that. You kind of talked about that just briefly a few minutes ago in the first round, but can you go a little bit deeper, talk about what Bourbon 30 is at the event and what you do and what the process is with that?
Well, of course, it's a play on Bourbon 30, meaning it's time to drink, and then we heap on it by doing it every half hour, and every interview is 30 minutes. And the people that we get on stage range from brand ambassadors to master distillers to distillery owners to people in bourbon tourism to hotel builders, and we just try to kind of make it a finger on the pulse of the industry that would be interesting to people in short bites. And we try to make it fun and have some laughs. And I love doing it. I love doing it before an audience because you can try to get them to participate and, crack wise. And the only thing beyond there is no script beyond the few questions that I've had, and we let it go. I mean, you can't bomb in 30 minutes, I don't think. Right. At least I never have.
Well, especially at a festival serving alcohol or with alcohol as the focus.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. It'll probably get funnier the longer the day goes on for those people. But it's just great. Randy very smartly said we need some sort of engaging entertainment beyond music on the lawn, and I don't recall whose idea it was to come up with it, but that's what we came up with, is Bourbon 30, and it's been success. And last year we had Chris Morris from Brown Forman and Fred No together in the closer for it was on Saturday. We probably had, I don't know, 250 people watching, these industry legends, and all you gotta do is wind those boys up and they start talking. And I just, goad them occasionally with a question. So it's a lot of fun.
And, to me, that's really part of the cool thing about the festival. Well, number one, like you said, I mean, because we were walking around, you're in the craft distillery section, which is when you walk in, like the primary legacy distilleries are kind of on the left side, and then the craft distilleries are on the right side. And you guys are set up in there in the shade, which is so nice. There's big trees. It's a great place to go cool down, but you got chairs set up and you got a great crowd. I mean, every time Matt and I walk past there, you always had a great crowd. I got to see Bernie Lovers there. You interviewed him last year, so I got to listen to part of that, which was Bernie's a trip. He's such a great guy. So it's just always fun to do that. But, to get to hear those guys, you talk about Fred and Chris, I mean, but to see them there at the festival and they're walking around. I mean, Chris was at the Woodford tent, and just hanging out there, talking to people after the fact. And I just went over and just hung out with Chris for like 30 minutes and just got to talk to him, which you can't do that anywhere else. It's like getting to meet rock stars. If you're a bourbon fanatic, it's such a cool experience. There's no other place you can do that.
And you're dealing with friends in whiskey. I always liken them to beer festivals. Everybody's always having a good time. at a beer festival. Same thing with whiskey festivals. Nobody's a stranger. It's just fun to be there.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. So, Matt, let's jump back. Let's talk about this whiskey that we're drinking. It is the Fusion Series 9 from Bardstown Bourbon. Was it 96.8? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Proof? Yeah, 96.8. And it is a blend of 3 different whiskeys, 2 of which come from Bardstown Bourbon, and 1 of which is just a Kentucky bourbon we think could be Beam 12-year-old, possibly. So what do you think in terms of the palate and the finish on this one, Matt?
The palate on this one is, I think at 96.8 proof, it drinks about that. It doesn't drink hot, not super oily either on the mouthfeel, but has a good amount of like oak right up front. And then it leads into some sweetness. There's like a honey or some sort of a nectar. I get almost like kind of a citrusy nectarine type, like fruit juice sweetness with it as well. And then I think it's rounded out by some of the older, little bit of oak, tobacco, almost touch of like leather flavors with some older influence, just kind of that old, kind of funky, dusty finish to it. That's like kind of not like hot cinnamon or hot pepper, but just a flavorful kind of oaky barn wood type finish. Really good. Really drinks mature.
Yeah, very nice. Steve, what do you think?
I'm going to differ a little bit from Matt. I think it drinks a lot lighter for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting any of the barn wood and leather. I do like leather. That's everybody wild turkey 101, baby. That's pure horse tack. And that's just such an easy drinking whiskey. This is tingly up front and just really honeyed all around the mouth and simple. And we get, Mark, I'm sure you would agree, if you share your samples with Matt, we get so much stuff as media members that you can't always. I need to be better. I need to start taking notes on all these things and putting them down so I can go back to them and talk about them. But I did not recall this being such a light and lively whiskey to drink. It's you could who's it who take the term sessionable whiskey? Somebody in Kentucky. It just said it was, something that you could kind of drink all day if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good summertime post mow the lawn drinker.
Yeah, and this is one
I'm still a beer on that one.
Well, you think about it's the middle of summer. You just finished mowing the lawn. You're all hot and sweaty, and you're not going to go in and reach for like some big, bold barrel strength bourbon that's going to make you feel even warmer. You want something.
I'm probably still not going to reach for even a bourbon.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm probably head for a tequila cocktail in that stretch. We're up here.
I'm gonna get a Country Boy, the orange cream cider. That's the thing. But this is
nice and dry and crisp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've opened this one, so I obviously had a drink at some point. I just don't remember, like you said, Steve. I mean, we do get a lot of these samples in. Unfortunately, I don't take a lot of notes. I need to be much better about that as well, and just don't do it. But it's always fun to be able to sit down during the shows and taste these. So I'm glad that you suggested that we get to do that, because I mean, I love Bardstown Bourbon, love what they're doing, love the people down there as well. Mm-hmm. So it's always fun to be able to talk about them and kind of share their story and a little bit about them as well.
Yeah, and their story and ours at the Bourbon Festival intersects at that video of KBF, and I don't know how it started, but we asked them and said, can we film a couple of segments here? And they're like, there's nothing going on. Nobody's here. It's COVID. And they let us have all the facilities to film as we wanted. And that was just incredible. You're in a space with all that natural light, so our videographers were just tickled to death. And we had that huge bar as a backdrop, and we could just do anything in this fantastic space. And they could not have been nicer to us and just more welcoming. And I was like, gosh, these people have jobs to do. What are they doing bending over backwards for us? And I'm not saying any of that because, they're our sponsor. They're just a gracious group of people.
Yeah, I agree with that. The one time I went down there in 2019 before the Bourbon Life was even a podcast. It was just an Instagram site. and got to go before they even had the whiskey library. It was still just a center block and chain link fence gate where they had the special whiskey. And Dan was like, come on in, just check everything out. Just grab something, get a pour, whatever you want. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, you want me to take one of these whiskeys that could be 50, 60, 70? Yeah, man, go ahead. Just do whatever. And then Matt and I went down there and recorded an episode in the new whiskey library when they first opened that up. And at the end of the show, Danny was like, you guys just pick something. Just pick whatever you want and get a pour of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, Matt, you pick whatever. Matt, you picked the Rittenhouse. What was it Rittenhouse 23-year-old?
23-year-old rye.
21 year?
Oh, I've never had that.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was.
How good was that?
An absolute delight, I have to say. It just amazing.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. But yes, every time we've been down there, it's like they make you feel like you are the most important person in the world, regardless of who you are. And like you belong there, and they want you to be there, and they're so happy that you're there. And it's such an incredible experience. So just a great group of people. Can't say enough about Bardstown Bourbon and what they do. So
agree.
Yeah, very, very cool. So guys, we're at the end of round 2. So I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break. Let's get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Steve Coomes, the Director of Programming with the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, in just a minute.
From our good friends at the Stave comes Lexington's newest hot spot to meet up with friends, have fun, and eat some great food. District 7 Social is a social and beer hall, but it's a lot more than that. Located in Lexington's Distillery District, it's the home of Lexington's first duck pin bowling lanes, and it also features a self-serve beer wall. That's right, self-serve. And if you want more, they've got it. You can try one of their delicious cocktails from the bar or order some great German fusion food from their on-site eatery, Germanish. So what are you waiting for? Be seen, be social. District 7 Social.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, it's my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing out there?
Oh, Mark, round 3. What a bummer to already be at round 3. But I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Well, I'm sad that we're in round 3. This has gone by so quickly. I wish Steve was here with us live in the Bourbon Life Studios, but that's okay. We'll take what we can get. Mm-hmm. But I'm missing out on some prosciutto-style country ham tonight, too.
Remind me to bring some to the festival.
Yes, please do. So, Matt, hey, I do need to thank all our sponsors, right? I need to thank them for what they do. We appreciate all their support. Couldn't do the show without them. But with that said, Matt, you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Steve Coomes is the Director of Programming at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival and a 3-time guest here on the Bourbon Life Podcast, and we are so happy to have him back for the third and final round. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to hang with you guys. It was much more fun on the second time we did it at the Bourbon Life Studios. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a great time with that. I don't know that I can say three-peat because I believe Pat Riley actually trademarked that term. So I don't know. I could get in trouble, right?
Who cares what he thinks?
Yeah, that's right. Come on, Pat. Come on. Sue the Bourbon Life. Bring it on, man. We're ready for that. So, but yeah, man, we had a great time.
You got your nice hair and lots of rings, man.
Yeah, exactly. He can't handle all those lapel pins.
We could Pat and I we could have a hair competition, man. Me and Pat Riley. We could go at it. Right. But now he was one of Rupp's runts, right? He was a UK grad. Is that right?
I think that's correct.
Yeah, man. So he's a UK grad.
You definitely put UK. I don't know for sure who the Rupps or what year the runts were. It was 58.
I can't remember.
Or was that the year the point shaving scandal happened? I can't remember.
I was thinking he was one of Rupp's runts as well, but maybe not. But I know he played at UK. So hey, he can't
65
give me
to
grief.
66.
Was it? Okay. All right. Well, you know what? He's a UK alum just like I am. So he can't give me that much grief for saying three-peat for Steve Coomes.
Pat Riley, indeed, you were right.
There you go. All right. Well, Steve, we appreciate the fact you didn't leave us, number one. We appreciate the fact that you're still here with us. In this round, we got something else poured up. Matt, this is Discovery Series 10, and I have, you know what? They gave us a sheet, and I printed it out like 200%. just so I could read it to everybody. This is a blend. This is 5 different whiskeys in this one. This is a lot. But this is really cool. This is what Discovery Series is about, right? So they blend all these different whiskeys together. This one is 62% of a 9-year Kentucky whiskey. It is 18% of a 13-year Kentucky whiskey. And Matt, you'll be interested to know that the 9-year and the 13 are both, no, wait, there's different mash bills.
Yeah, those are different mash bills.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So there's
plot
also
thickens.
8% of a Kentucky. Yes, 8% of a Kentucky 6-year-old. There's 2% of a Tennessee 10-year-old. And then 10% of a Georgia 10-year-old. Matt, you said something earlier tonight, like, who would be a Georgia 10-year-old? Steve, do you know any ideas who might be?
I've had a couple of guesses from people, and it's not a. I don't believe it has any consumer-facing brands. That perhaps it's just a contract
Yeah.
distiller.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. Like there's that one in Central Tennessee that does only contract.
Yeah,
Distillation, does fantastic work.
yeah. But there's,
Yeah,
I mean,
remember its
a
name.
Georgia distillery that has a 10-year-old whiskey. I'm just like, I don't know who has
Yeah,
been
I'm
around
with
it
you, man.
in Georgia. Because Matt, we talked about that earlier. We had ASW. I think it's
Mhm.
ASW in distillery
Yeah.
in Atlanta, but they've only been around for a few years. So I don't know, man. I'm not sure, but it's 10% of the mash bill. A 10-year-old, only 2% of a 10-year-old Tennessee. The rest of it, a large portion of it, obviously, is Kentucky based whiskey. So Matt, what do you get? Have you been nosing this one? What do you pick up
Yeah.
on it?
It's got a nice bright nose. I think this is kind of the first that didn't really follow with the characteristics of the other two, but this is really bright. I get nice citrus, nice orange, kind of. I know we've said in the past, like lemon pledge would be like a nose
Yeah. Okay.
descriptor of an aroma. But there's fruit. There's like a subtle stone fruit, maybe like a little plum or fig in it as well. Definitely some mature oak qualities, vanilla, a creaminess that accompanies that the matured oak note on it with it. Just really nice. This is just a really complex but really approachable nose as well. Something that one could really sit down and digest and pick all the way through if they wanted to, but at the same time, it's just perfectly fine, I think, to leave it as really good and just stop with that descriptor.
Yeah. Matt, for me, I get a little bit of vanilla, cinnamon, and caramel with roasted peanuts, maybe some candy. Okay. I'm reading the tasting notes. That's not fair. So Steve, what about you? What do you pick up in terms of the nose on this one?
Well, it's striking compared to the other two because of its proof. So it's 114 proof.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Thanks for saying
And-
that. Forgot. Yep.
Yeah, and usually I can get my nose a little closer to the glass, but that's tingly. But you're right, Matt. Just tons of citrus. I get closer to a lemon balm than lemon pledge, and sometimes that lemon pledge will lead into it's not the furniture polish, but it's like real lemon, that concentrate, which is
Okay.
so you're going from one end of it to the bad end.
Mm-hmm.
But like lemon balm, I love, or lemon curd sometimes.
Ooh, that's
The oak. What's that?
that lemon curd. I like that.
Lemon curd.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at how citrusy this thing is. It doesn't have, I was looking at the Tennessee component, which is Dickel. There's not much of that
Mhm.
because usually you get that kids vitamin note on the
Right.
nose. But Mark, you said, see, I'm not getting any roasted peanut like they
Yeah.
claim
I'm
on this.
looking at the
We'll
tasting
have to ask
notes.
Danny about that.
Yeah,
Danny,
I'm
where the
like-
hell did you get that note?
I'm like, who wrote your notes, guys? Come on.
Candied cherry, absolutely. Ripe red fruits. Matt had
Yeah.
a noted stone fruit.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on in here.
Yeah.
I wish
And
I would have uncovered it a little sooner to let it breathe a little because it's spicy on the nose.
Yeah, but I mean, I love what they've done with this. I mean, the way that Bardstown Bourbon has just embraced, and they're transparent about it, right? I mean, it's like, hey, we're sourcing all these bourbons. We're going to mix them up. We're going to blend them, and we're going to create what we want to create. So I respect that. I love the fact that they've done that and they've built their brand really, I mean, kind of based on that.
Yeah, with the
Can't wait till we get to palate.
What's that? What'd you say, Steve?
I said I can't wait till we get to palate. Go ahead, Matt. I cut you off.
Oh no, I was just going to agree with you, Mark, that they've done a great job of exploring a lot of different places, being very forthcoming about it and open, kind of similar to what Barrel Craft Spirits and the crew over there does with sourcing from a lot of different places and exposing a lot of different distilleries in different states to a bunch of different people.
Yep. Yeah, good job. So, Steve, let's jump back and let's talk some more about the Bourbon Festival. Let's talk about the events. So there's a lot of things going on at the Bourbon Festival, people that are going, people that want to get involved with it, buy tickets, etc. I mean, can you talk about some of the things, some of the events that are going on, the premium events, especially what is going to be going on there at the festival?
So the premium events include some larger outdoor under the big tent events put on by specific distillery sponsors, and they also include the smaller classes that I organize that are right around 30 people.
Okay.
Let me go to one of the big tent things. Gosh, sorry.
That's
I
all
thought
right.
that was on this list.
That's all right.
Well, one of the cool things, darn it, and it's sold out already, is Bourbon in the Air on Thursday night. Have you guys been to that?
You know what? I did not. I was going to go last year and wasn't able to make it. That's the hot air balloons. Is that right? Or not?
No. That's part of the old festival. Bourbon in the Air is just Thursday night.
Oops.
and everybody has their distillery booths open. And so you're walking around tasting, but it's dark, and it's only lit at the booths. And it's so chill and you're not hot. And some of the women on our team said it's their favorite event because they're not hot from the day, having to go home, change clothes, shower, and then get ready and come back out. You just walk on in, and it's just a low-key atmosphere. So in the future, get your Bourbon in the Air tickets for sure. The Bourbon Opener is another special tasting event that's on the lawn, but it's under a tent. That's always done by the premier sponsor, and this year, obviously, Bardstown Bourbon. Bourbon Engagement featuring James B. Beam, sold out. It's a big deal. I can't believe this one. See, I'm a huge Brown Forman fan, or at least Old Forester fan for sure. The Bourbon Opener, that's another one, and the bottle. That's another one that still has tickets available. I would recommend it highly. And the Bottle and Bond Happy Hour featuring Heaven Hill Distillery is awesome because their Bottle and Bond collection is unrivaled.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And Bernie Lovers is going to be performing, which is awesome.
Yeah, I like that you say
performing. Is he playing? Is he playing guitar? Performing?
He does a musical history of Bottle and Bond.
Okay, nice. I didn't know that. I knew he played
Bernie,
guitar.
for those who don't know, was a professional comedian, so he adds a lot of humor to the presentation. But Michter's, Bourbon, Bacon, and Biscuits, that's a Sunday morning thing. Sold out. Shocker.
Yeah.
They're just fantastic. But the classroom sessions are the ones that I have planned. And we do a couple of early things on Thursday, a little bit more of a premium price. There are two events. One's called An Ideal Pairing. It's one I'm leading with food and whiskey pairing with some of these whiskeys tonight that we're drinking.
Okay.
From Bardstown Bourbon Company. There are tickets available. Can you believe it? Mine's not sold out. Can you believe it, guys?
After this episode, Steve, after this episode airs, not a chance. They're going to sell out.
I'm telling you, food and whiskey pairings, awesome. Please come see me.
All right.
The ultra premium cask finished whiskey tasting. This is going to be a rare tasting done by Bardstown Bourbon Company. Sold out.
And that's Danny Calloway, right? Danny's doing that?
That's Danny Calloway.
Yeah. Such a great guy.
The smiliest, kindest man in the bourbon industry.
He really is.
The Black Manhattan class. Anybody like Black Manhattan? Or Manhattans in general?
Yep. There you go.
I can't believe it's not sold out, but I'm a fan. So Black Manhattan is basically one with largely not any sweet vermouths, but an Amaro instead. And that's the way I prefer it. Not so much a traditionalist anymore.
What's your Amaro choice? What do you have? Like the Nonino Cachino?
On hand right now, I've got I love Chinar. I love what is it? Foro. I love Maletti. I mean, there's just
yeah.
I just
Okay.
love 'em.
Nice.
Yeah. Craft cocktail innovations that sold out. We heard from a lot of our participants in the past couple of years make more cocktail classes, so we have.
Oh, there you go, Mark.
This one I can't again. Yeah. I can't believe this one's not sold out yet. It's called Whiskey Blending, a Confluence of Art and Science, and this is going to be led by Ashley Barnes
Oh,
and
yeah.
Monica Wolf.
dang.
Yeah,
To-
and Monica Wolf, right? Yeah. I mean, come on.
To the blessed benders in the business. Well, Steve, how much sampling have you done? Best blenders in the business. So they're going to lead you through an exercise of how to do it because it's hard. The first time I ever did one of those, my whiskey was a wreck. So I'm sure they'll teach better than some of the ones I've had. Not surprisingly, this dusty seminar that's going to be led by Travis Hill. Whiskeys from way back. Oh my gosh, sold out. There's some unbelievable stuff on the menu. That sold out quickly. Batch cocktails, how to do those, sold out. Thoroughly modern meals made with bourbon, sold out. Deep dive into whiskey and making and tasting. That's Danny Kahn's session.
Yep.
Danny told me some time ago when Barton or Sazerac announced Barton was going to be closed to tourism and it was only going to be it's going to be a workhorse distillery, which is probably smart. And I said something on Facebook. I was like, dang, it's one of my favorite distilleries. And he texted me and said, don't worry, VIPs get in. I'm like, seriously, he's like, well, who's that mean? He said, I sent it to you. I'm like, why am I a VIP? And I got to take a private group there back in March.
Nice.
And these were all physicians, and their wives were also like very high up intellectual jobs. And he got to go full geek on distilling and techniques, and they're following along. Some microbiologists were in the group. And I said, can you do that at the Bourbon Festival? He's like, yeah.
Oh, man.
That has sold out. And that's going to be one of the coolest things. The 7-year sip, a vertical tasting of Wilderness Trail.
Oh,
whiskeys.
yeah. Nice.
How cool is that? It just goes on and on and on.
Yep.
And the classes are affordable, $75 to $100 tops. And, hour long, you taste a lot of good whiskey, a lot of great cocktails, and you get to be, as you said, Mark, right with the people who make the whiskey and influence it. And it's a lot of fun. And it's air conditioned because you're going to need it. It's hot in September in Bardstown.
Yeah, that's going to be great too. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to get maybe access to some of those. I'm hoping, since, hey, I should mention that we are the preferred podcast of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival this year. So we're excited about that. Randy and I talked about that for quite a while. And I was just really excited to be able to work with you guys and to make that happen. So we're excited to be the first time you guys have done that. So the preferred podcast of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So we're thrilled about that. But we'll be there. Obviously, we're not going to set up a tent and hang out. We like Matt and I like to get out and socialize.
That's right.
So, yeah, that's kind of our mission, to be there and just to interact and just have a good time. It's the one time of the year that we get the opportunity to get out and just explore and have fun and get to sample and see what's going on, because it is a great place. I mean, you got 50 different distilleries that are going to be there, producers, and it's an opportunity really to get out and talk and meet these people. People we may have talked to online or through social media, but you don't have the opportunity really to talk to in person. And that's what I love about it, is the fact that we get to go there and see these people face to face and talk to them just a little bit and catch up and, get to see what they're doing. It's a lot of fun.
What's really cool too is this year we're going to have 17 food trucks.
Oh yeah, that's right.
First year we're still within COVID's reach, and we had 4 and 2 couldn't make it. So it's tough. And then last year, I think we had 6, which was much better, but still the lines are too long and the variety wasn't quite there. And this year we're going to have 17. So that's exciting. And we really worked hard. Randy, I should say, worked really hard to make that a much more premium feature. And the variety, if you can't eat something there, just check out. There's all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff to eat.
Matt, did you hear that? You don't have
You
to
must be vegan. That would be the food truck. That's what you should go to. You must be vegan.
I don't even have to bring my
Matt,
snacks
Sorry if
this
anybody's
year.
vegan.
Matt doesn't have to bring the bag of snacks. We had to leave the festival a little bit early last year just to go back to the car.
We
So
left
Matt,
right on time. We were all ready to go. But yes, I was SOS for some snacking. I needed that to bring me back to whole.
oh yeah, this year we've got plenty of options to choose from. And I mean, Steve, I think to me that's just kind of a reflection of what people see and how they're perceiving what you guys are doing here. I think it's a reflection of what you guys have achieved and what you're making happen. People like us, as a podcast, I wanted to be your preferred podcast. I wanted to be affiliated with you guys. People want to be a part of it. People want to be involved. 50 distilleries want to be involved with you guys. Food trucks want to be involved with you guys because you are the premier bourbon event in the country. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You guys have really done that in a brief period of time.
Appreciate it.
No, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You guys have really achieved some amazing things in just a very short period of time. And I'm just excited for you guys to see what else happens in the future. I mean, it's going to be great to watch how this grows. I know you guys have some plans. Can you talk a little bit maybe about what the future looks like with the festival?
So interestingly, this is our 3rd year, and we in no way feel that we've arrived, but we've never been better organized. So we're excited about that, and that's allowed us to dream a little bit forward. And one of the things that we would love to see added to the festival is the Distillers barbecue event. Jim Beam, for many years I believe it was on either Derby Day or Derby Eve, would have a competition between distilleries, barbecue competition at their campus. And we tried a barbecue effort on our own. It didn't work out so well, but but it's not dead yet. And we would love to have that be part of the festival because it highlights the industry. Our unwritten mantra about when we ask any question about what should be in the event, we say it's about the whiskey and the people who make it.
Right.
And you cover a lot of ground by saying that. And so this year we're going to have the winter barrel relay, which has happened since year 1 or year 2. They're going to come over on the Bourbon 30 stage, and we're going to have them. The winners are going to get a drink, and somebody's going to come out with a big tray of drinks for the winners. We're going to talk about that and what it's like to work in a distillery and blah, blah, blah. Now we want to get this friendly competition that had gone on for years at Beam and make that something else a part of our event because we want it to be about the whiskey and the people who make it. So, unfortunately, the people probably won't. They can't make enough barbecue to feed those crowds, but surely we can hire some professionals who can step up and do that. So I personally, I think that, as much as I talk about whiskey and country ham, I think whiskey and barbecue is just the match made in pairing heaven. It's just fantastic. So
yeah.
I'm pushing for that. Let's just say whether that matters, whether they ignore me, I don't know, but that's what I would like to see happen. But space is our issue. I mean, we have passed the final frontier in that one. We've used up the whole frontier.
Right.
So, unless we can go vertical, I'm not sure we can go vertical.
You can make a condo, right? Just put some levels up and just make it into the Bourbon Festival Condo Association and do whatever you want to do.
I own a condo. I don't want anything to do with another association.
I know an attorney that can help you out.
I may need your help someday.
All right, guys. Hey, let's talk about the whiskey. Let's jump back over here and talk about this Discovery Series number 10. Matt, as you're taking your drink there, what do you think in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
Palate on this one definitely brings the proof right at the start. good and warm, nice and spicy. Now we're getting, or at least I'm getting more of the cinnamon, that peppercorn right on the front of the palate. Then kind of leads into some of the citrus that we've been talking about. I get a little bit of orange, a little bit of tangerine, then some of the nutty flavors, almost like a walnut um, comes across with it before going into another good and long, oily. This one has a great mouthfeel, good and oily, nice and viscous, but a good warm finish with it. Baking spices come across like clove, cardamom, like a little bit of coriander on the finish for this one.
Very nice. Steve, what do you think?
I think it's lush across the palate. Matt had mentioned oily. It just covers the palate well, very floral. But my first or second taste about 10 minutes ago, before I started running my mouth, because you asked me a question or three, Mark, was Fritos corn chips. I got this huge blast of corn and black pepper. Now, it's not there now after, speaking a bit, but that's when I said, ooh, I can't wait to talk about taste. Really, really, I mean, it just was such a cool blast of corn and black pepper. But, whiskey's evolve in your mouth and in the glass, and that note's gone.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember you saying that, because I was like, Steve's got something he definitely wants to say about this one. So
Mark and I were talking about this, or emailing back and forth about whiskeys, and I said, let's get the 10. Let's get the 10 in there. That's really good. Because it's outstanding.
Yeah.
And it would make a decadent Manhattan.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, or old fashioned.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I still have a little bit left here, so I might have to make that one. You get bigger bottles than we get, Steve.
No, I don't. None of these.
I'm gonna have to talk to somebody about that. No. Oh, okay. You get the card rubber. Okay, I see what you did there.
This is my tracking system for when I write about it. I keep it with it until the bottle's gone.
Wise
Keep
man.
the notes, and also lets my wife know that those bottles can't be used.
That's right. Don't touch
until
them.
that paper comes off.
Oh, very nice. So I just got to ask you, Steve, we're at the end of round 3 here, the end of the show. But before we wrap it up, what's been the funnest part in terms of the Bourbon Festival, working with us, doing everything you do? What's been the funnest part of this for you so far?
Man, I love interviewing, so that's always fun. That we get to do, how many is it this year? 16 or 17 barrel picks.
Wow. Yeah, nice.
It's a lot of fun. And by the way, we didn't mention, and I think this is really important, the law allows us now to let distilleries sell those barrel picks at their booths.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
That's really cool. So there's no one bottle shop with a big line. And so now it's a bit of an Easter egg hunt to go to the distilleries, find their booths and buy them there, and possibly get the bottle signed by somebody who, represents that distillery. So that's just a lot of fun. So there's never a bad pick. Some are better than the others, but there's never a bad one. But it's crunch time for us. And you mentioned that earlier. And right now, the most fun thing I can imagine is Sunday when it's closed.
It's over.
Because that's over. Randy and I keep joking. We said, we got to quit making events that are so much fun for everybody else and we can't enjoy.
Yeah. Well, you guys
and
do
when
a
I
great
say
job.
he and I mean, what's that?
I said, you guys do a great job at it, man. I mean, you really do. I mean, it's great. It's a wonderful experience.
I'm going to stroke the boss on that one because he's a great leader and really knows how to do these things. And I only bring one component to it, but we have a great team, small and mighty, as he likes to say. Probably only 7 official people on the team, and then Randy hires all the bigger crews that do the hard work of setup, tear down, trash, all that stuff that's necessary. And thank you to our sponsors who make this happen. The people that said, get us sips to lips or it's not going to happen. Wasn't quite mafia style like that. I'm going to make you a deal you can't refuse.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah, not a deal. Exactly. It's this this industry came together so quickly to make this happen, and they have given us a lot of grace as it's evolved, but they appear to be thrilled now with it. So
very nice. Well, you guys have definitely made this the premier bourbon event that's out there. I mean, Matt and I have had the opportunity to go a lot of different places and have, go to these events, and we have a great time. But what you guys are doing is it's next level. I mean, it really is, Steve. So congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
You guys are doing a great
much.
job. So people that want to get information, get tickets, how can they do that? Where can they go to find more information?
kybourbonfestival.com is where you can go for tickets, and just scroll down and you'll just go click on ticket packages and scroll down and you'll see what's not sold out and what is. But there are plenty of the weekend bourbon taster passes left, so you can get into the festival. The VIP stuff is sold out, but you can still get in and have a ball. I mean, you think about $175, what you can get for that.
Yeah.
Is amazing. I mean, people will think, gosh, it's a lot to spend for one event. Yeah, I don't generally spend $175 on myself to go somewhere. And then you start to think of what you can get with all that tasting and all the events and all. It's just the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bargain. It's a bargain.
Yep.
You couldn't get that many whiskey tastes for that little. That's for sure.
No,
no.
Not at all. Matt,
nobody pours bottom shelf.
No, Matt and I we will wholeheartedly agree with that statement right there and support what you just said. No doubt about that. So, Steve, before we wrap it up, any final thoughts, anything you want to add before we get out of here tonight?
Well, I'm flattered you guys had me on for a third time. You said I was the first, and I'll quit joking about myself that you're desperate for guests, but that's really cool. Love the podcast. Love what you guys do for the business, and really look forward to seeing you in the flesh in Bardstown on September 15, 16, 17.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Matt, anything you want to add before we wrap it up tonight?
Steve, you said it right there. Can't wait to get in touch with you, see you in Bardstown, have a good time, and get to connect with hopefully a bunch of our listener base, anybody that's out there, and spread the love of the Bourbon Festival.
Yep, I agree
Matt,
with that.
let's start selling our hams at the Bourbon Festival. Let's get a booth and we'll start.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll
carve it off a little taste.
I'll bring one. You bring one. Let's do it.
That's right.
Oh,
the ham
man.
duel.
Yeah.
There you go. I think that's a great idea, man. I'm down for that. Let's do that for sure. Steve, thanks so much for joining us tonight, man. We appreciate it. It is always so much fun to hang out with you. We just have a great time, have a great conversation. You're one of my favorite guys in the bourbon industry. I love being around you, getting to do things. We've done different events that we've been part of together. And I just
we did a pick this year.
We did a pick this
at
year.
Heaven Hill.
Got to spend some time with you for Bourbon Classic this year, I think, as well. Riding on the bus. So, yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's just fun. I enjoy being around you. I appreciate the fact that you're very knowledgeable. I respect your palate. You and Matt both obviously have great palates, but I respect your palate and respect your opinion on things, and just enjoy having the opportunity to listen to you and being around you, Steve. So thank you so much for joining us again tonight on the podcast. So we really appreciate that, and talking all about the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Matt and I are super excited about this. Mm-hmm. We are thrilled to be the preferred podcast of the Bourbon Festival. Cannot wait to get there and just experience everything that's going to be going on there. So we really appreciate that. We do want to thank all of our sponsors as well. We appreciate everything they do for us. We could not do this show without their help and their support. So we appreciate everything that they do. We appreciate our listeners. Thank you guys. Whatever time of day it is, like Matt says, morning, noon, or night, whenever it is you listen to us. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We do this for you guys, and we appreciate all your support. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You could find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also join our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. You can email us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And if you feel so inclined, please feel free to leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at The Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the Bourbon Life.